Okay, we're gonna pick it up from where we left off last time in the Piskay Teshuvos over here, talking about having nicer items for Shabbos, different items. It says a leniency over here in footnote 33 of the Piskay Teshuvos. But if a winter coat and a scarf, we don't find that you need to have a special winter coat and scarf for Shabbos. Because after all, a person is only using them because it's cold outside, because there's rain outside. His purpose isn't for honorable reasons. He's not just wearing it because it looks nice. He's wearing it for practical purposes. Right. Some are stringent on this. Whoever increasingly honors Shabbos, that is considered praiseworthy, as is explained in Siman Reish Mem Beis, which we're going to be learning. Amir Hashem. Charles Juba's Divri Yisrael Chelek Aleph Siman Ayin Vav B'Shem and Hagi Chasam Soif Shigam Kafos the Lodem Ha'ilam Yuchah Shabbos. The Divri Yisrael brings from the Chasam Sofer, they're even having special gloves for Shabbos. So again, these are all Hidurim Ikar Hadin. You don't need it. Okay.
Yeah, we're guessing if you're traveling and you can't bring that much clothing with you.
Right, yeah, for sure not. For sure not, exactly.
You might sneak out in certain places.
100%. 100%. Now, over here, he brings this idea, this is going on 34, that there was a whole discussion we learned about pajamas. You said, but Pashas, you don't need special pajamas for Shabbos. However, in the footnote over here, he says that no, according to the reasoning that we have nice Shabbos clothing, which is because that the Shabbos clothing, not because of in honor of Shabbos, but because will remind us not to transgress, not to do activities that we're not allowed to do on Shabbos, acts that we're not allowed to do on Shabbos. So therefore, he says, "Hametzias muchacha shebalaylo kishakam toich sheinoso sarich yoiser zehirus bazil begodim yuchadim yizkirihu." So there would be an idea of even having Shabbos pajamas. Why? Because the pajamas would be a reminder not to violate Shabbos. So this would be a reasoning to have special Shabbos pajamas, which is a very interesting idea and a concept.
Sure.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Now, wanted to what?
At times because of upset stomachs now, they can wake up many a time on Friday.
Exactly. Now, we're talking about over here at the Suda, having keeping the jacket on even in the house, the entire Suda. Okay, so it's actually in the footnote. I brought this up last time. Aware of this. Shashal Shuva Sitz Eliezer Chelik Yud Gimel Simin Yud Gimel. Ayin Sham over there for more details. Maybe Ha'uvdo Eitzel Mahari Nagrio Zechus Yagin Alinu Shro Harizal Shestalku Hamalochim Imenu Mishum Shesar Zmiro Shabbos Besudul Malbush Elyon. He saw the Arizal saw the Malachim. They were leaving him the angels because he removed his jacket, what he was wearing on the outside. So you see that there's definitely a union of having the Zmiros with the jacket on as well. Something that a lot of people might not be aware of is in there. Over here, it's brought over here that the Chofetz Chaim, he would say that when you put on your Shabbos clothing, you say Lakava Shabbos Kodesh, you verbalize. However, in parentheses, he says that you shouldn't say it in the restroom. I think that this came up in a previous conversation where I think I mentioned that it's best not to say Lakava Shabbos Kodesh in the restroom. I didn't have a raya. But l'chayra, you're not supposed to because it's kind of Torah related and you shouldn't do it in the bathroom. So that's what we see in this footnote, something else.
You could think it though.
I think it, yeah, better to just do it outside of the bathroom.
Right before you go take a shower.
Yeah, exactly. You could say with the shower, or before you put on your clothing, if you're gonna put them on in the bathroom, cover showers, but not in the bathroom, yeah. Now, Umashino Hagin Ha'ilam, the little bush as big day Shabbos base simcha. What about people who wear their clothing, their Shabbos clothing during a simcha during the week? Okay. Kfar Nimsa Makor Lakach. We have a source from this, it's in the Medrash and Rus. Ach gam bazeh matzanu medaktekin shahayu yachdim l'simcha yisayim begodim noyim acherim v'lo'olam lo holcha b'big day Shabbos lahem b'yamoisachol. Even so, we find that people are very scrupulous to be careful at the simcha that they have to wear very nice clothing, and they don't wear Shabbos clothing at all, even during the week. In other words, Me'ikar Hadin, it's permissible to wear the Shabbos clothing at a simcha during the week. However, it is a stringency to have special clothing just for Shabbos, just for the simcha. Okay, so this is the Piskay Teshuvos, yeah.
So where in the pecking order does those type of clothing go? Because clothing for Yom Tov should be the best,
Yeah,
right? Then you have Shabbos.
yeah.
And then I guess the next level should be the Simcha clothing.
It seems like, yes. Seems like, yeah. Okay, save changes before closing. I don't know what we really did, but we'll save them anyways. Okay, now let's take a look at this lesser known sefer, Otzer Halachos, written by Chassidish Yid Rabbi Avram Zvi Friedman. He's from Brooklyn, if I'm not mistaken. He's coming out. There's a lot of Svarim came out on the whole Orach Chaim already. I have actually a lot of his physical Svarim, meaning not an Otzer Chachma. Very good. Let's review a few points over here. Okay, we're gonna see this point more in Rav Harfness's tshuva, which so we're not gonna go through that. But that was first I went through this before I saw the tshuva in Rav Harfness. But we'll see more about Richos over there. This is very interesting, and this is something to look into. We were talking about cleaning spider webs before Shabbos. It says Al Piskay Teshuvos. Kabbalistic reasons is idea of killing a spider. I would say you got to look into this because there's a well-known Medrash and the Mefarshim talk about this when David HaMelech, he could have killed Shaul HaMelech in the cave in Ein Gedi, and there was a whole discussion that with the spider web, and the spider web saved his life, and he said, I never understood why spiders were needed, and then he understood. So based on that, not to kill. So the spiders or anything, if it's not harmful. Because if it's harmful, you can't let that harm them. But so that's interesting. That's another discussion of why did Hashem create harmful creatures? But anyways, so that's interesting. He discusses that over here. Kabbalistic sources, reasons for killing them, which is very interesting.
Whenever you see them, talk about Dafka of Shabbos.
Says it seems like Tarach Laharga, the moon Rebbe. And many times he stood on a bench and he lit a candle and he tried to burn those webs. Removed his shoe, tried to do it.
He killed the spider and he said, Al Edom.
Yeah. Ashlich, I'm gonna throw my shoe. He smacked it with the shoe.
Comparing the spider to Edom.
You got to look into that more. Like I said, something that's very interesting. One other point over here with the white tablecloth. Okay, I've been in major discussion about this back and forth through text and in person with Moshe Greenberg about this. He actually helped me find the tshuva and the Harshag, and we were discussing back and forth about this white tablecloth. The whole concept is very interesting. In the footnote over here, he says it's a Minhag Yisrael. Even though Mikra Adim, we don't find this. So we're going to see Rav Harfness is going to talk about this more at the end. He says, look at the Sefer Minhag Yisrael Torah. Actually, he didn't get a chance to look it up. He said he found this in a Sefer Eitzi B'Samim. Maybe I'll have to look it up over there. The main discussion over here is what's the idea of having a white tablecloth, right? We know in shuls they always have the white tablecloths. Where does this come from exactly? So one answer, which we're going to see over here in the Chuvas from the Nishma Shabbos, is that there's going to be a concept of even covering your table during the week. Right? There's going to be a concept about that, which is interesting in and of itself. And therefore, for those of the custom to cover the table that they're eating on with the tablecloth even during the week. So therefore comes out that we have to change something, make something different, make it more recognizable that is being done to cover Shabbos. So in order to make it different on Shabbos, we have to have a different type of tablecloth. So therefore it's white. Now the obvious question on that is I don't understand. If you just have a white tablecloth on the table during the week, how is it different on Shabbos? The answer is it's not. Maybe you have a nicer tablecloth, right? So that's one reason we saw in the Piskay Teshuvos in the footnote. We're going to see Rav Harfness also going to mention that reason. But the question is, why specifically white? If anything, just have a nicer tablecloth. So apparently, if you look at the drashos from the Talmud of the Rashba inside. I didn't look at it inside, but Moshe Greenberg did. Told me this both in person and through text. We were communicating. Footnote 3: the Drushos of the Mahari Evan Shuiv, which is the Talmud of the Rashba. Apparently, he found it. He doesn't even say where it is in the Drushos. Moshe Greenberg found it, and he said that if you look it up, he goes into this idea of the man that has to do with the man. Okay, so therefore, perhaps one could claim that the man, it was covered with dew from underneath it and on top of it. As we know, that's why we have our challah cover. One of the reasons on top, and it's covered on the bottom. Also the challah. So based on that idea, maybe one could say the dew is kind of a whitish color. However, he doesn't specify that. So as of this point, it's not so clear exactly why the custom developed to have specifically white tablecloths. You could come up with all the Torahs, Yom Kippur, white, and there's a lot of Kittel white and Kittel by the Seder and everything that we discussed over there. A lot of Torahs behind white. But why specifically the tablecloth? One other point, maybe someone could say, wait, we saw the Panim Eiros, the Arizal holds you should wear totally white. We saw the Bear Halacha was saying if you have to worry about Yehura, it's going to be religious arrogance to wear totally white, even on your exterior garments, not just your white shirt. Then for sure you don't do it unless you're known as a tzaddik, a chassid, you're doing everything in a pious way. But we see that there's a significance of white. So the question is, does that also apply by a white tablecloth? So that's what we were talking about together, handling about back and forth a little bit.
He's saying that the man, right? That the man was God love him.
Could God love him?
Maybe
right?
that was the connection.
Maybe, but he doesn't. I didn't see it inside, but the way it was explained to me from him who did see it inside was that he doesn't say that. He doesn't say that it was white, that you have a white tablecloth because of the man. He does not say that. So Sarachi, and as of now,
somebody said about that's connected to
he brought up the man, but he wasn't saying that in regards to why a white tablecloth exactly. Just meaning we learned already, right, in Siman Reish Ayin Aleph, I think it was, to cover the challah. One of the reasons that we covered for the embarrassment, for the covered for the suda, and then we saw because of the man, right. But it has nothing to do with white. It has to do with for the man, right? So the tablecloth on the bottom is the bottom layer because the man it had the dew on the bottom and on top. The challah cover is on the top. Fun. Okay. Morning, Shaya. Okay, so let's continue over here. I don't think. Oh, okay. There's something over here. What is this? Oh, yeah. This is a very nice story. That we should. I think that this story will relate to everyone, and I think it teaches us good values. All right. So we're gonna see this story, which is gonna have halachic ramifications as well. I mean, obviously, we're learning halacha lamais over here. Child to tshuva siach Yitzchak. Hevi Kain B'Shem Hagoyin Hasadik Maharash Bandi Mig Nitzosh Akasa B'Sifroi Torah. Right, Torah brings a sefer. Ish Echad Yira Hashem B'Yodeh Sefer Hayadar. Okay, there was one person who was a Yira Hashem, and he was a learner. He's Talmid Chacham. He was a learner. He was living in a city. Hayadar B'Kfar Shem B'Minyan. Living in a village, small place, there was no minyan. So what is he going to do? What he did is he went to another village nearby, which had a minyan, the town over, and he always wore very nice Shabbos clothing. Right? There's a concept of schar halicha, Tanit Eliyahu. We learned about it in Siman Sadi, Hilchos Tefillah. So he went over there. All right. Then what happened over there? What's the story? Ish Adir bin Chasim. The guy was a very well-off individual. He had a lot of money. Now he had very expensive clothing as well. He bought very expensive clothing, not for himself, it was for Shabbos. For covered Shabbos. He had the proper intentions. The problem was that when it rained, so then the clothing got ruined. They didn't have the type of dry cleaners that we have. I don't know why he didn't have a coat, Sarachin, but his clothing was getting ruined. That didn't prevent him from wearing nice Shabbos and Yontif clothing. Excuse me. He still wore very nice Shabbos and Yontif clothing. That didn't stop him. He didn't care that his clothing was getting ruined over here. Right? V'haya eitzlo Adam echad sha'amar. So there was one person who was by our friend over here, and he told him, "Lo." He told him, "Hold on, this thing doesn't work so well sometimes when you get zoomed in." Where is that? All right, get that out of there. So there was a person over there that told him, so he's being oiver, he's violating the lav, the Isser Loisase of Baal Tashchis. He's buying something and now it's getting ruined. It's considered as if it's wasteful. Just like if a person is still hungry, and I specify, is still hungry, and doesn't eat the food in front of him and throws it out, it's Baal Tashchis. He's wasting food. Kihu mashchis al yedeze begodav hachashuvim. He's destroying his important clothing through this process. But Martilo, and I told him, chas v'shalom sho'iver Baal Tashchis. Chas v'shalom to say that he's violating Baal Tashchis. Kipam echad asher oisa hamitzvah umahader hamitzvah dai. This isn't Baal Tashchis. It's not considered that he's wasting his clothing and his money and he's just destroying something. Because even if he merits wearing this special Shabbos clothing even one time, that itself removes the potential Isser De'araisa, the lav of Baal Tashchis. There's no halakhic issue over there. Because he's doing it in honor of Hashem. I could bring you a proof from the Kohen Gadol himself. What happens every year of Yom Kippur with the Kohen Gadol? Well, and he wears very nice white clothing, very expensive. The Mishnah Maseches Yuma Paragimel Mishnah Zayin teaches us that the Kohen Gadol wears white, expensive clothing when he does the Avodah on Yom Kippur, when he goes into the Kodesh Kadoshim. Bahaya shel kuf monim mishel tzibor v'yuchol lohaisif mishlo kama sheyirtza. This clothing equals 100 monim. It was an expensive cost, and just like many public projects, it all gets taken from the taxpayers' funds. Right, so it was taken from the tzibor, from the congregation. It was very expensive clothing. And the Kohen Gadol, he could add from his own monies to pay for some of it as well, maybe to make it even nicer. We find that the Kohanim Gedolim, they were usually very wealthy, and they even paid even more out of their own pocket for this. You know how many times he wore this very expensive clothing? One time. One and done. And still we see all of the money that was invested into this. Why? Because one mitzvah, do we know what one mitzvah is worth? We're not even able to comprehend, unfortunately, but how special a mitzvah is. One word of Torah HaKadoshah, one extra tefillah, one bracha with kavanah, you know what that does? After the clothing was used on Yom Kippur, it was prohibited to derive any benefit from the clothing whatsoever. It was only worn once. It's learned out over there. That pasuk, you leave them over there. Even so, just because of using it one time, we see how much was put into this special mitzvah just for one-time usage. How much money? If we didn't have enough proofs already, we'll bring another one. Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, they were wearing nice clothing. Nebuchadnezzar was throwing them into the fiery furnace. The Godim Chashuvim Shalahem Big Day Malchus, they were wearing incredibly expensive clothing. They said, we're able to fulfill the mitzvah of dying al Kiddush Hashem. We have to dress accordingly to fulfill this mitzvah. Shafilu b'shas sakana lo yishon adam min ashrara shehochzak ba. From over here, the Gemara in Sanhedrin on Sadi Beis learns that even when a person is in danger, nevertheless he shouldn't change from doing what he's supposed to be doing in the shrara, dressing nicely, having choshev clothing. Now, this, of course, teaches us the importance of having nice clothing for mitzvahs, investing into a mitzvah, putting into a mitzvah. Just want to point out several points over here. Number one, a lot of times people, they ask a question, they say, what am I putting so much money into the Daled Minim, an expensive esrog for? The esrog, if anything, you get more from your money. Because over here, by the Kohen Gadol, right, it was a one and done situation. So the esrog, at least you're going to be using it more. So that's a rebuttal over there. Right?
They really didn't clean it. They just used it one time. So
Yeah, the Kohen Gadol. It was also Behana after.
But with the esrog, isn't it like the main thing just to have one day, and then the rest is just kind of like extras?
Correct, but also incorrect. The first day is midaraisa, l'kach l'chem yom harishon, but the other days is still a mitzvah. Albeit daraisa, but nevertheless it's still a mitzvah, which is chashuv lo ad ma'od. Right? So therefore, that's one point. Another point, the Rambam writes in Hilchos Deos that a person shouldn't walk around wearing clothing like a poor person, but also shouldn't be walking around wearing incredibly expensive clothing that everyone's going to be looking at and pointing and say, "Oh, look at what this guy's doing over here!" Right? It's like showing up. It's like showing up in a Rolls Royce. What's this guy doing over here? Right? Got a $500,000 vehicle, $500,000. What's the guy doing? The guy's wearing clothing that's $10,000. Or what's the guy doing? But what it means is that the clothing that we wear on Shabbos has to be nice. First of all, it should be protected. The guy was right. Bal tashchas. If a person is not wearing a raincoat and protecting his nice Shabbos suit when it's raining, what's the guy doing? The water ruins suits. It's known, right? I don't know how much you could speak to your local dry cleaning people who are involved with this, your suit specialist, right? But we have to protect what we have, pachan ketanim, but also keep that Rambam in mind, that not to go in with wearing clothing which is $5,000-$10,000 clothing. And one other thing on clothing is that everyone's always trying to outdo everyone else. It's a big problem, and that's another hashkafic discussion, but that's also something to consider. Yeah.
Me?
Yeah, you unmuted yourself. You have something to say?
That's right. No.
No, you just want to say how geschmack that story was. Okay. You even had to take the video. You could always leave the video on, by the way. I don't know why you shut it up, man. V'yadachtik shalola lil boyish b'chol shum beged shel Shabbos. Imlo yisur simcha mitzvah. Okay, we already saw that old news. Be careful not to wear any weekday clothing on Shabbos unless it's for simcha. V'yadachtik shalola lil boyish b'chol. Sorry, during the week you don't want to wear any Shabbos clothing unless it's for simcha. So you see from over here, he's giving you the heter for simcha. That's why I had like that.
This is Rabbi Friedman from Brooklyn.
I think so, yeah. So that is basically all that he has to say over here. Oh, what's that line? That line means we got to do it. That line through. All right, what is this over here? What do we have? What's this going on? Nun Zayin. Oh, yeah. This is another answer why we say Seitzchem L'Shalom. Even though the Malachim, we just welcome them. So look at this answer. Very, very nice answer over here, okay? Charleston Chuvas Shemi Shimon. I don't even know who this is. He answers this question why we say Seitzchem L'Shalom to the Malachim after we just said Shalom Aleichem. We welcome them. We say, see ya. What do you mean, see you? We just welcome you. So we already learned around 4 or 5 answers to this question. I think we learned 8 answers. We learned a lot of answers. Here's a new answer that we didn't learn yet. But say for Imri Yoel. Imri Yoel wants to say, Kosav Lataritz. The truth is, Bevadin and Ichel Malchi Malam Masharsi El Yol Mavoy Etzlina Bol Mashal Flagashmi. Malachim are not interested in coming down here at the planet Earth in this lower world. They're just not interested. That's like what you think that the Rosh Yeshivas that are coming to collect from Eretz Yisrael, do you think they want to come to Chutz La'aretz in New York? It's the last thing they want to do. They're doing it so that they can have the funds to now continue with their yeshivas in the kollel. But they don't want to come. It's the same thing with the Malachim. They don't want to come. Just Hashem commanded them, you got to come down. You got to do your shlichus. This is why you were sent over here. So they're not interested in coming down in this physical Olam Arai, Olam Hagashmi, Olam Hasheker, Elabal Korchach B'Zachus HaShabbos, V'Tigzor Omer V'Yakov Lo V'Adarabba Oindim Masapam You ever in a location, in a place, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I just want to get out of here. When will this end? That's like what the Malachim are like. When can I just get out? They're waiting eagerly. When can I leave this physical world? This is akin, analogous to someone who is incarcerated in prison. The guy's in jail, but not just a regular jail. The guy's in a jail with snakes and scorpions. The guy's thinking, when on earth am I going to get out of this nightmare? Get me out of here. The guy's anticipating the time. When will the time come that I could finally leave? When will that time come that I could just get out of here? That's what the Malachim are feeling. When can I get out of this lowly world? The Olam Hagashmi, this world of physicalities. When they hear us singing in such a nice voice, oh, they're saying now we can finally leave this awful situation that we're stuck in. And this is good news. Finally, we can get out of this Olam Hagashmi. Everyone's focused on this Gashmi, it's on that Gashmi, it's on this, on that. What's going on over here? When we're singing, we are essentially giving them permission. We're granting them the ability to be able to return to the Olam Halyon, the upper celestial worlds and spheres, and what's going on up there, the Olam Haruchni. This isn't now done in a disgraceful way, in a way that is now being mezalzel, that is belittling their honor and their respect. Rather, on the contrary, this is honoring them because they're happy to hear that they can get out of here. Divrei pi chacham mechein. Yeah, which means I like what he said. The words of his mouth, they're graceful type of wisdom. Anyways, so that is the story over here. Those are a brief summary of everything that I went through, all the pages over here. I did it to save everyone time. My top highlights of that which we already didn't see. So that's the Indian over here. We have a tshuva over here. There's a 3-page tshuva that the Minchas Chan has on specifically this topic, and he goes into other inyanim as well about the wearing the white clothing, because really the truth is, up until this point, we really didn't see so much of so many explanations, or even one explanation clarifying what on earth is the Be'er Halacha talking about. Just to remind ourselves of what we're referring to over here, we had a very cryptic Be'er Halacha, which would strike anyone who reads this for the first time as very surprising and difficult to understand, meaning not that it's hard to understand what he's saying, that's not what's so hard, but the concept that he's talking about, we can ask ourselves, what on earth is going on? Levish's beged lovan b'Shabbos in mechzi ki Yehuda lo yasa. What on earth is this talking about? Wearing white clothing? It's religious arrogance? Everyone wears a white shirt on Shabbos. What on earth is this talking about? Okay, it's going on the outer garments, not just on the shirt, but still, what on earth is the big problem? But beso, in your house, you could do whatever you want. Like, what's the issue over here? So that's what this whole tshuva over here is coming to address. This is the Shilas and Chuvas Minchas Chan Rabbi Noach Alabam Chashvarov in Queens, and so it's in the Shilas Chuvas Chelik Beis Simin Yod Aleph. Beginning, he goes through everything nicely, and he says a beautiful, before he even gets into the white, and I don't think we're able to finish this in 4 minutes. I mean, I'll say definitively, we won't finish it in 4 minutes. Not that long, but I don't want to rush this. There's no reason to rush. We're not catching a train or a plane. We're going to learn properly at the pace that we go. And therefore, what he says over here is a deeper idea behind changing into special Shabbos clothing. Is v'lachein sarach lasois poyel dinyomi. We have to do a physical act. L'shanos mabushav shemachutz. Change our external garments. Ubazeh yisoyer belibo lash l'shanois machshavoso shebelibo. When we change our garments externally, that will help change our garments internally. In other words, we see over here that this idea of changing the clothing on Shabbos, al yudei shinui begodim, hine oise shinui chitzoini, yashviya shinui galam machshavas halev yavoy lo hakara v'yasoydus amunash Shabbos, he hazeker lehem. When we change our external garments, our clothing that we wear on our outside, that will help change the clothing that we wear on our inside, so to say. In other words, to get us to have the proper thoughts, coming to the realization that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it created the world and continues to provide everything to this world. So that's a deeper idea of changing our clothing. We should point out the Ramchal in his Mesil Shasharim talks about that there are two methods, that there is the Levushim Begodim, big day Chitzoinim could be Ma'oyer, the big day Penimim, or vice versa. The Pnimi could be Ma'oyer, the Chitzoini. Now, most people, the Mesil Shasharim says that they get from what they do in their external actions, the way that they externally dress, or their actions that they do, that will affect their inside. That is a beautiful thing, and at least that's happening. Nevertheless, the highest level is when someone first changes internally and comes to realization that this is what is important, and then this is what I have to do, and then that will cause automatically every single external act that he does to be changed for the better. So there are two mahalchim, and this is a very chashuv hashkafa regarding wearing Shabbos clothing in general. So that's something that's very interesting. Comes out that now we really have three reasons why we wear Shabbos clothing. Number one is because we're honoring Shabbos. You could say maybe this reason is a part of this one. Number two, we'll put this reason, maybe it's part of the first, with a slight elaboration. When we wear the clothing, that causes us to have a internal recognition of what Shabbos is about, what it represents. Hashem created the world, he creates it. We believe that Hashem is the one and there's no one else at all. And then lastly, number three is that the clothing reminds us not to sin on Shabbos and do what we're not allowed to do. So those are really three reasons. So Minchas Hashem, tomorrow we're going to pick it up from this tshuva when he's going to go into the white clothing and shed a tremendous amount of clarity on this issue. Everyone, yeah.
It sounds like 2 and 3 are sort of the same.
Kind of, it's definitely a different way of. It's definitely twisting it. It's definitely a different way of saying it. I mean, because the other way is, okay, we're wearing it to honor Shabbos. Okay, fine. But this is deeper. It's not about just honoring Shabbos. It's about changing us as a person. Changing us. So it's different.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Go.
All right.
Sure.
All right.
Have a good day,
Everyone have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Maybe book.